The most important chapter in your entire book is without a doubt your opening chapter. And that's because this is the chapter that makes the first impression with your reader. And if you screw things up here, chances are your reader isn't going to hang around for very long. Now, because of this, a lot of writers feel pressured to do as much as they can with this opening chapter, and they throw all sorts of ideas in here, they overthink things, they try to strategize, and they start with different characters or at different points in time, and in the end it just doesn't work. And today I'm going to tell you why I believe that you should in fact cut your opening chapter. What's up, guys? My name is Brandon McNulty. I'm a writer, and welcome to my writing channel. Today I'm going to talk about the idea of cutting your opening chapter, and I'm sure there are some of you out there who are thinking to yourselves that you would never in a million years even think about cutting your opening chapter. Maybe you enjoyed writing it, you've had people tell you that they read it and they loved it, and maybe the details are too important that you can't even imagine how the story would work without them, and that's fine. I'm not saying that you have to cut your opening chapter. All I'm asking is that you consider doing so, and I'm going to give you some questions that you can ask yourself in order to determine whether or not your opening chapter can go. The first question that you need to ask yourself: is my opening chapter a prologue? And this is an important question because prologues are very divisive with readers. There are two types of readers out there. There's one group where they just absolutely hate prologues, they can't stand them, they just get disgusted when they see them opening up a book. And then there's another group of people who are totally indifferent to prologues. They don't really care either way. But one thing I know for certain is that I've never met anyone who said they absolutely love prologues. So keep that in mind, because if you are opening with a prologue, chances are you're more likely to upset someone with it than you are to excite someone with it. Number two question: does my opening chapter focus heavily on my hero or my villain? Either way is fine. If you want to start with your hero, like in Indiana Jones, that works. If you want to start with your villain, like in the original Star Wars, that works as well. But if you're opening up with like a side character or a one-off character or someone who isn't nearly as important as your hero or villain, take a step back, ask yourself if there's a better place to start the story, and chances are you're better off just going with the hero or villain. Number three question: does my opening chapter hook the reader? Now, a hook can mean a lot of different things depending on what genre you're writing in, depending on the type of story you're writing. But whatever you're writing, make sure that something about that opening chapter hooks the reader. And depending on the type of story you're writing, a hook might be something that grabs the reader and just throws them into chapter 2, or it might be something like a mysterious detail or a clue that just kind of pulls them along by their curiosity. Either way is fine depending on what type of story you're writing, but make sure that hook is there, because if you don't have a hook, you're never going to grab the reader. You have to have something up front that signals to the reader, hey, there's a lot of mystery, there's a lot of intensity, there's a lot of excitement going on in this story. Don't you want to move on to chapter 2? Don't you want to move on to chapter 3? If the reader doesn't feel that way, you've lost them, and I can guarantee you that they're not going to stick around for long. Number 4 question: do I open the story here for the sake of me, the writer, or for the sake of the reader? And this is important because oftentimes as writers, we tend to start at a point in the story where we first latched onto things and we first got a good understanding of the story. We needed to understand how the story world worked, how the characters operated, and so on. The readers, however, they don't need to understand all that. In fact, they would rather be missing some details at the end of the first chapter. They'd rather have some questions in their head. They'd rather be wondering where things are going to go, how this story world works. I think as a general rule, it's important that your reader is curious about learning more details rather than bored by getting all these details up front. And my number 5 question: what will my story be like without my opening chapter? And this is your homework for tonight. Just look at your manuscript and cut chapter 1 from it. If you have to delete it, whatever, but just get it out of your mind and start with chapter 2 and ask yourself, does this story work if I start at chapter 2? And if it does, throw chapter 1 out the window. And even if it sort of works, consider getting rid of your first chapter. If there's some important details in chapter 1, just bring them to a later part of the story. Maybe work them into some character's backstory, or have a brief flashback, or have some kind of moment where a character is remembering what happened in the original chapter 1 that you're getting rid of. But if that chapter 1 is not vitally important and your story can work without it, chances are your story is going to be tighter and better if you do get rid of it. So I hope this helps. Question of the day: what is the number 1 thing that an opening chapter should do in your opinion? let me know in the comments section below. Thank you guys for watching. Be sure to check out my other videos. Hit the like and subscribe buttons for me. Share this video if you don't mind. And remember to keep on writing.